I did remember Yish Takavu, from one of our
Yeah,
songs.
there's a certain amount, but this whole section of the blessing of the sons, especially really the meat of it, which is today, because today we get the Huda blessing and we get the Yosef blessing. So those are the real meat of the whole process. Actually, next week we get the Yosef. This week we get the Yehuda. Next week we get the Yosef. But remember, this is all the blessings from the viewpoint of the Yehuda story, the southern story. But we can look at this as literature, as biblical poetry, and see the parallelisms of biblical poetry, the wordplay that comes out throughout all of this, especially the wordplay on the tribes for whom the Southern Kingdom really don't care what they have to say. We can look at it from a family standpoint of uh, what is going on in Yaakov's head, saying these things about his sons and his sense of their future based on their past. That is, he's projecting onto them, you are this kind of kid, so you should only have kids who follow after you, or then you're really in trouble. Like the old story of the child that the mother says, you should only grow up and have children like you. And the child says, yeah, that's what grandma says too about you. Or we can look at it, of course, from the historical, what was going on at the time of the author of this. And of course, being poetry, we have probably an earlier stage of authorship. But certainly, from the historical standpoint, we're reading material that was written long after the children have become the tribes. So, is this a statement about the tribal reality of the time from the standpoint of the Southern Kingdom of the Yehuda? So, many different ways. We can also read it in a classical traditional commentary on this is all really happening at the time. This is somehow God's statement of the future of these tribes. This is a warning. This is so it can be read many different ways.
Why do
Obviously, we're not going to look at it all those ways.
you call it poetry? This
Biblical poetry is built on a parallelism and wordplay system. So, among the most famous poems, of course, the poem at the end of Deuteronomy, give ear, O heavens, listen, O earth. We're always getting the same statement is being made with different words, and I'll point that out. So we will look at it as biblical poetry and see where the parallelism of the terms comes in to give a greater impact. We know that, of course, when Hebrew gives us the same verb in two different forms, it's usually translated as truly or really or some other kind of statement of emphasis. So the biblical poetry was emphasizing by saying the same thing in more than one way. And generally, poetry, biblical poetry, is considered to be the oldest strain of the oral tradition because poetry is easier to memorize and transmit than prose. And so, of course, all of the Greek stories are poetic because it was easier to transmit oral tradition if one did it with various kinds of poetic forms
but
and possibly even sung.
this is the first section you've used that for, right? That term for.
We had a little bit of biblical poetry earlier in Genesis, but not very much. So we begin with Arur Apam. This is now the continuation from last week of the statement about Shimon and Levi, who are twin brothers, who are partners in crime, brothers at arms, all the things that they did, ending with they killed a man and they maimed an ox, which is, again, they're doing nasty things. we would say in the prose form, but in the poetic form of the biblical author, we would say killed a man, maimed an ox. Two different, very nasty things. And in fact, when we read the Megillah, we read they killed the people, but they didn't pillage and loot. To say they weren't so nasty. Whereas a more biblical poetic would be they killed the people and they pillaged and looted. But here, so arur apam, cursed is their anger, ki oz. Cursed is their anger, for it is strong. And then a similar statement, ve'evratam ki kashata. And evratam would be a parallel to the apam, the anger, evratam, their wrath. And oz, strong. Here, kashata, hard or really intense, difficult. A kasha is a poser, a hard thing. So their anger was strong and their wrath was intense, which is saying the same thing, but emphasizing that they did not, this was not a measured response to the issues of their sister Dinah, but rather this was way overboard.
Is it the word Oz or O's? Because I actually looked up in a where it had it looked like it was an ah, but I couldn't tell. I didn't know.
Well, if this is one of those, it looks like Oz, but the root is strong, which is Oz. Adonai Oz la'amo yitain.
Mhm.
So the root word is Oz, and if we want to read it as strong, a parallel to the kashata, then we would read it as Oz.
And
What does Oz mean? Anything?
Oz, yes, means then. Oz, then we did this.
Ah, ah.
Either that or it's the place where Wicked and Dorothy went.
but that's not the difference between the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic
No,
pronunciation.
this is the Kamatz Katan, that like in Shochbecha and Kodshecha, those places where we read the Kamatz not as a Kamatz but a Kamatz Katan and a short O. And then again, paralleling the end of the verse, Achal kem b'Yaakov, va'afi tzem b'Yisrael. Achal kem, chelek is a piece or a portion. So achal kem, I will divide them up. I will cause them to be pieces in Yaakov, and afitzem, and I will scatter them, be Yisrael in Yisrael. And remember, Yaakov and Yisrael are the same person, the same parallel term. So I will divide them up in Yaakov, and I will scatter them in Yisrael. And this again is a statement of what happened to the tribes of Shimon and Levi. Shimon gets absorbed into Yehuda. He loses his land. The tribe loses its identity and is simply scattered among the Yehudahites in the southern kingdom. And Levi, of course, is given the great punishment of becoming the Levites, the priests.
That's a punishment.
That's a punishment because they get no land.
Ah,
And
But
they are dependent on the surrounding peoples. They are the servants of God, but they're dependent on welfare. They're civil servants. And when a king's advisor comes along and says, "No, let's just take away let's just call the civil service department. It's too expensive. Let's
Today,
fire all those civil servants."
Today, Levites are considered an honor, or no?
Yes and no. Again, yes, it's an honor. You get the second Aliyah. And on the other hand, you get to wash the feet of the Kohen before they do their real ritual stuff.
Mhm.
That is, the Levites don't get, Kohanes will come from the Levites, that is, the Aaronites. And that's a whole historical discussion about the northern priests, the Levites, and the southern priests, the Aaronites. There was
Hmm.
two different priesthoods. There was the temple priesthood, which was the Aaronite priesthood, and there was the scattered priesthood, the Levite priesthood. And when the northern kingdom is destroyed by the Assyrians in the 8th century, the northern Levites have nothing to do except go south, which means they become subservient to the Aaronite priesthood in Jerusalem.
What about the man who made Levi's? Because he got some honor there.
He's the most famous Levite.
Right. And so, for example, Pidyon Haben is done with a Kohen, not with a Levi. And in the Megillah, in the Torah portion that we just read, in Ki Tisa with the golden calf, that entire story has to be read as the second Aliyah by a Levite, because you don't want to make a Yisraelite feel guilty for having participated in the golden calf. So we're told, God will say to the Levites, I have chosen you as a reward. But the tradition actually does read it as a punishment. So this is that statement. And again, remember, this is a southern kingdom, so this is a Aaronite priesthood saying to the Levitical priesthood, you deserve to be scattered among the people because of what your ancestor Levi did.
Hmm.
So Shimon and Levi, that takes care of them. But again, Arur Apam, so Apam ki Aoz, and Ephratam ki Kashata, parallel terms. Achalkem biyakov, Afitzem b'Yisrael, parallel terms. Now we get to the big bulk of stuff, which is Yehuda, who's telling the story. So he has to wait until his turn in the order of birth. But we've eliminated Reuben as being deserving of being the preeminent tribe. We've eliminated Shimon and Levi as being deserving of the preeminent tribe. So now we get to the fourth born Yehuda, and Yehuda, you deserve it. But we're not given any reason why Yehuda deserves it. It just says, Yehuda, you get it. And now we have wordplay. Yehuda ata yoducha achecha. Yodu, Yehuda. A little bit of wordplay there. Yehuda and Yodu. Yodu is either thank or praise. So Yehuda ata yoducha, you will praise your achecha brothers, or your brothers will praise you. You can read that in that direction. Yehuda ata, you, yoducha achecha, will praise you, your brothers. Yodu, they will praise, cha, you, achecha, your brothers. So your brothers will praise you. Well, of course they will, because you're in charge of the whole story that we are telling. Yadcha ba'oref oivecha, your hand is on the neck of your enemies. So the power is going, the actual military, biblical power, kingdom power goes to Yehuda. Yishtachavu lecha b'nei avicha, will prostrate to you the sons of your father. And here we have Yoducha achecha, will thank or praise you, your brothers. Yishtachavu lecha b'nei avicha, will bow down, will prostrate to you the sons of your father. parallel terms. And why are they doing that? Because you're the one who can save us. Yadcha ba'oref oivecha, your hand is on the neck of the enemies. You have the military power to save us now that we have been scattered among you down in the southern kingdom, because the northern kingdom is no more. Verse 9.
But why is the Northern Kingdom no more?
The Assyrians conquered it in the 8th century. The southern kingdom is going to last another almost 200 years.
But all this happened before the 8th century, so
Well, this is being said before the 8th century. This is being written after the 8th century.
after the 8th century or 8th century BC?
8th century BCE.
BCE.
Yes, when the southern kingdom is in charge of everything, because the northern kingdom is no more. So the people of the southern kingdom who are in charge of what now it will be all of Israel, because the northern kingdom, Israel, is gone, say, and you all deserve it because our father, ancestor Yaakov, blessed Yehuda in this way more than any other tribe. And this is Yehuda, the power tribe. Gur Aryeh, Yehuda, the Lion King kid.
Which is lion?
Gur is the whelp, the little prince lion that's being held up to look down on all of the people down below. Aryeh is a lion. So the biblical author is giving us a pre-taste of the story of the Lion King. And you know, when Dad is holding up the little lion cub and looking at all the animals down below, little lion cub says to Dad, "Who are all those people?" And Dad says, "Food." So Yehuda is a gur aryeh, the whelp of a lion, the offspring of a lion. Miteref bini alita kara ravatz ka'aryeh uchlavi mi yakimenu. Again, lots of parallel terms. Miteref, the word teref is the same word that gives us trefa. Trefa is not non-kosher. Trefa is roadkill. Trefa is the leftovers after the lion has torn it apart. Teref is tearing apart. So miteref bini ali miteref bini. So from the prey, from the torn up stuff, my son. Alita, you went up. So you were down there. You're a lion's whelp. You're the offspring of a lion. You've made your first kill. You're tearing it apart. Now you get up again. So very graphic imagery of a lion and its prey being given to, this is the way Yehuda will be. Kararavatz ka'aryeh. So getting up from the crouching down position like a lion. So you can picture the lion crouched down over its prey. And chlavi mi yikimenu. And chlavi is the word for an old lion.
Where are we? Okay.
In the end of verse 9.
Right, but crouching would be
Crouching, kara ravatz ki aryeh, crouching like a lion, and chlavi, and like a old lion, mi yikimenu, who will make you get up? That is, who's going to disturb the lion while it's crouched down eating its torn up prey? So the aryeh and the chlavi, the lion, and the chlavi, the old lion, And then the Kararavat's crouching down, enjoying its meal. And Miyakimenu, who's going to bother you? Who's going to make you get up from your meal? That's again the imagery, the parallel imagery that's being given in the strange language. Now we move from the image of the Lion of Judah, Judah like a lion, and that's where we get the image of the Lion of Judah is from this passage. Now we're going to get into the practical political realm of Judah in verse 10. Lo Yasur Shevet mi Yehuda. So Lo Yasur will not depart, will not leave, will not come to an end. The Shevet of Yehuda, the staff of Yehuda. Shevet, by the way, is also the word for tribe.
I thought Shevet was to sit.
Well, if it were with a kaf instead of a tet. Shevet with a tet is a staff or a tribe. And it's the same word because the tribes gathered around the staff that held their flag. So the staff will, or the tribalness of Judah will not depart. Umichalkek mi ben raglav, and it's the scepter, as you can see over there, the scepter from between his feet. So the image of he's holding up the staff and he keeps that, and his scepter, his royal scepter, is there right between his legs, between his feet. And that will not happen. Ad ki yavo Shiloh, v'lo yikachat amim. So this is an image now of the rulership will always be in Judah. And then up to 4 will come Shiloh. Shiloh is actually was one of the worship centers for the Levites in the northern kingdom. So this is again a statement. Shiloh, the northern kingdom, they're going to end up coming down to you and bowing down to you, the ruler, the ruling tribe, the holder of the staff and the scepter. V'lo yikhat amim. And to you, to him, that is to Judah, will obey the peoples. So this is again that image of the northern kingdom having been destroyed, the people from the north having fled south into Judah and having been absorbed and become Judahites.
Can
And
you
thus,
translate this so it it makes sense? I mean, not word after word, but just the whole thing makes sense.
yes, well, so this is the statement to Judah, you will be the power, the military power, you will be the ruling power. The lion is the military power, and the scepter and the staff, the ruling power. That is, the northern kingdom people are going to come and just become Judahites. They will no longer become Yisraelites, B'nai Yisrael, but they will become Yehudim. By the time we get to the book of Esther, as we heard in the book of Esther, they are called not Yisrael, but they are called Yehudim. And thus all of the 12 tribes will now not be known by their tribal name or by their united tribal name of Yisrael, but they will be known by the dominant tribe, Yehuda, and they will all be Yehudim, Judahites.
Mm.
So this is that statement, theoretically, by Yaakov, as he's blessing all of his sons, telling them all, the day will come when you will all bow down to your brother Judah.
Is there any difference in, say, among the religious in Israel on who they call Israelites versus Jews?
Well, so there's an issue among some aspects of the ultra-Orthodox that they are Yisrael, but Yisrael is only a messianic term, and therefore the modern state of Israel can't be Yisrael. But pretty much, I think all would say Jews, because that's already the term all the way back in the book of Esther. Verse 11, we now move on. We now move on to one more image, one more vision. Osri la gefen iro. So that's one statement. Velasreka beni, and that's the middle section that binds the two. And then atono kibes bayayin. So osri legefen iro. So the osri is tethered to a vine. So the offspring will be tethered to a vine. And then lasreka beni, the finest vintage, my son, atono kibes bayayin. An ass will be dressed in wine. So atono, aton is his ass, his donkey. Kibes dressed, bayayin in wine. So this is again an image. You're going to tether your, tie up your, the children of the asses, the foals, to the, they'll be tied to the vine, and they'll be dressed in wine, in the finest vintage, my son. Levusho, and then they will be dressed in wine, and then levusho in the is washing. They will be washed vidam anavim. They'll be washed in the blood of grapes.
Who is the they?
Everybody else that's now serving, because an ass simply serves its master. This is all the rest of Israel, is how they'll be relating to Judah, the master tribe.
So la gefen actually means animal.
Geffen is a vine.
Oh, that's the vine.
Yes.
And what about ero?
Ero is the offspring of an ass.
So that's what the people are being called.
Yes. So they're just going to be tethered to the vine, but that means they get to wear grapes. They get to wear the finest vintage as their clothes. And they'll be washing themselves in wine and washing themselves in the blood of grapes. They're washing their cloaks, suto, his cloak in the blood of grapes. So his may be Judah, or it may be the people. Who are the his? But the image is, if this is all really good, if you can wash in grape juice, you can afford to waste your grape juice for washing material.
It's kind of sticky.
And this may be, again, sort of the anointing kind of thing, dabbing a little bit of grape juice behind the ears and on the neck. And
Which is the word for clothes?
kibes, clothe. Kvasim are clothing. Kibes is to clothe, the verb. Kibes bayayin, clothe in wine.
And then what is atuno? Then?
Atono is the aton, is a donkey, an ass.
Oh, donkey.
His ass will be clothed in wine. Levusho, vidam, levusho, and he will be his washing. And in the blood of grapes will be his cloak. Suto is his cloak. his cape. And we move on to Zvulun. He doesn't get much. Zvulun, by the way, was the coastal tribe. They were given the
We skipped
coastal
12.
area.
We skipped 12.
12.
And
Oh, right,
12, yeah.
right. Oh, yes, this is even more praise. Hachlili einayim miyayin. Chachlili, chachal is a reddish, a ruddy color. So the eyes will be bloodshot from wine. Einayim, the eyes. Miyayin, from wine. And again, a little bit of a poetic, little rhyme. Einayim miyayin. So, chachlili einayim miyayin, ready the eyes, ruddish the eyes, bloodshot the eyes from wine. Uleven shinayim, leven is lavan, white. Uleven shinayim mechalav, and white the teeth from milk. So your teeth will be as white as milk or white from all the milk stuck to it. And your eyes will be bloodshot from the wine.
So what does that mean, though?
Exactly. What does
Is that
that
good?
mean?
Is it good?
Is it good? Is it not good? Is it will be overindulgent?
Mhm.
That you're
Drunkards.
overdoing your wine? Or is it good? You will have so much wine and milk, you won't have to worry because the prices won't go up, they'll always go down.
Mhm.
All the wine will be cheap and affordable. You can take as much as you want. The milk will be cheap and affordable. You can take as much as you want. Notice he's not promised eggs.
Mhm. So is it, will he live comfortably, or will he live comfortably or be
Overindulgently.
indulgent? Yeah.
And yeah, you can take your pick.
And who was that? That was
This is all Judah.
Judah. Judah. Okay, now
This
we're
is
getting.
all Judah stuff. Judah from the lion down to the red eyes and the white teeth.
Mhm.
This is a variety of different images of Judah, supposedly, according to the tradition, a prediction of the way in which the tribe of Judah will become. And we do know, in fact, that in the tribe of Judah, the kingdom is not always the most healthy. The leaders are not always the most caring of the people or the followers of God. So we can read it as a praise, we can read it as a warning, we can read it as a negative statement with the positive statement. But for now, we're just reading it. Now we get to 13, Zvulun. And Zvulun was the tribe that was given the northern coastal region. Nice port in Haifa, Akko. Zvulun lechof yamim, Zvulun to the coast of the seas. Chof is the beaches or the sands or the coastal area. Yamim, the seas. Yishkon, he will dwell. V'hu lechof oniot, v'yarchato al Sidon. So this is Yishkon, he will dwell. V'hu, and he, lechof oniot, to the, again, the coves, the beaches, the shore, for the ships. V'yarchato al Zion, and his border will extend all the way up to Sidon, which is probably an area up in where now Lebanon is. So Zvulun gets a good chunk of coastal region. They are the place where the ships come for trading. They are in charge of the seaports. And while there was a northern kingdom, that was the tribe of Zevulun. 14. Yisachar chamor garem rovetz ben hamishpatayim. So Yisachar, unlike Yehuda, who is a lion, Yisachar is a chamor, a donkey. Chamor and aton are just different forms of donkeys, asses, male donkey, female donkey. So Yisachar is a donkey. Garem rofetz, which parallels the ravats of Yehuda. Yehuda is a lion that crouches down over its prey, but Yisachar is a donkey, Garem Yov Rovetz Ben Hamishpatayim, who is falling down, crouching down under the burden of what it's carrying. So again, we don't know if Yisachar is good, given too much weight to carry, or Yisachar is able to take rest breaks even while it's carrying.
How do those words work? Garem.
So garem rovetz, this is the crouching downness.
Those two together.
Yes. And bein hamishpatayim, between a pair of burdens, a pair of saddlebags. But mishpat is also the word for judgment. So now is Yisachar going to be bowed down under its judgments? 15, Vayar menucha ki tov, vet haaretz ki na'ema, vayet shichmo lisbol vayehi lamas oved. So Vayar, and he will see menucha, rest. Menucha is rest. You look for a Shabbat menucha, a Shabbat of rest. So he will see rest, ki tov, for good. He is just for goodness, for good. Ve'et haaretz, and the land, ki na'ema, it is pleasant. And there we have again, menucha ki tov, his rest for his good, and haaretz ki na'ema, and the land is pleasant. Vayet shichmo, Shechem is the shoulder. So the shoulders now are bearing or bowing down or carrying the burden. Vayet shichmo, his shoulder will bear lisbol, to offer tribute, to give tribute. Vayhi lemas oved, and will be then the tribute of a servant.
This is all Yisachar?
This is all Yisachar. So Yisachar is going to be paying a lot of tribute. They get the good land, so therefore they pay the higher taxes. It's not like they have the wealth, so therefore they avoid the taxes. They are servants. And again, remember, this is written from Judah, so they're paying their taxes, their tribute to Judah.
Give tribute. Vayehi. Which is the word tribute in here?
Yes, the tribute is lamas oved, the tribute of a servant. Lamas. Vayhi is and will be. Lisbol is to bear, to carry, to be weighted with. So their shoulders will bear the burden, and they will be giving the tribute of a servant. That is, they're the carrier servants for Judah. They carry the weight of Judah. Dan again, now we have wordplay. Dan Yadin. Dan will judge. Dan Yadin Amo, Ka'achat Shivtei Yisrael. Dan will judge his people like one of the tribes from Israel.
What does that mean? Like, because he is one of the tribes of Israel.
Exactly. So Ka'achat, he's just going to be one among many.
Oh,
But in some form, maybe it's telling that the judges of the future will come from the tribe of Dan.
Hmm.
Or it's
Makes
just playing
sense.
with Dan and Yadin. Because Dan was named Dan because his mom says, now God has judged me and found me worthy of more kids. So very strange material.
question.
Yes,
Can you put the Hebrew back?
I
for-
can.
This is a reading Hebrew question.
Okay.
So in line 11, the word uvdam, and then also in the next line, ulven. I always get confused when there's a vav and
Right.
and whether you go
Yes. So,
uvidon, uliven, and when you
right.
just said uvdan. Can you explain that?
U is simply a replacement for a v, and. So after the and, you have the word, and the word is bedam.
Right.
So vedam. But when you're reading fast, you're going to be saying uvdam, but you're still thinking to yourself uve pause dam, uvedam. And then the same thing, not ulevan. And leven is lavan is white. So uleven.
Could you
Well, sometimes you really do pronounce that first letter after the vav, and
Well, you always do when it's the oo at the and in front. It's just when you're doing it fast, you don't necessarily hear the pause. Like up in the second line of 9, where it says uchlavi, it's
I'm
actually uchalavi, uchalavi.
I'm gonna have to find
But
that.
when you say it fast, it becomes uchalavi, and you don't hear the ch as much. Uchlavi. And
I see.
then down in where we were just looking, down in before 12, and then at the after 12, before 12, uvedam. You're thinking to yourself uvedam, but when you're saying it fast, it's uvedam anavim.
Are there times where you really pronounce the first vowel?
Uleven, and a lot of it will depend on just the jump from that consonant to the next consonant, whether you need to actually make the pause or you need to think the pause. How
Okay.
do the consonants blend?
so that when you begin a word with u, is that always and,
Yes, oo beginning a word is always and,
never part of the root of the word?
never part of the root of the word.
And why would you say u rather than v?
Because, for example, vichalavi just doesn't roll off the tongue. Uchlavi.
Oof.
And then vividam just doesn't roll off the tongue well, so it's uvidam. And villaven just doesn't work. So the u is when the v doesn't really work because of what comes after it.
Mhm. Very interesting.
All right, next week we move on to a little bit more of the Dan and the rest of the tribes, ending down with Yosef. Actually, not quite ending, because we still have Binyamin we have to worry about. But this is our reading for next week. Continuing the Dan story. Yehi Dan Nachash Ale Derech Shefifon Ale Orach Hanoshech ikve sus vayipol rochvo achor. And again, you'll see parallel terms, Nachash and Hanoshech. And parallel, when you look at the English, parallel language. 18. Lishuatcha kiviti Adonai. 19. God gedud yegudenu. There's 3 different forms of the godiness. So wordplay. God gedud yegudenu. V'hu yagud akev. Again, another godness. That's all God gets. 20. Me asher shmeina lachmo v'hu yiten ma'adane melech. 21. Naphtali ayala shlucha hanoten imre shafer. 22. Ben Porat Yosef, Ben Porat Ale Ayin, Banot Sa'arda Ale Shur. And this is going to be now a long Yosef section, but notice because it's the, you'll see as it's the Yehuda section, it's not Ephraim Menashe, it's all Yosef. 23. Vayimaruhu Varobu Vayishtamuhu Ba'ale Chitzim. 24. Vateshev be'etan kashta vayapozu zeroe yadav midei avicha Yaakov misham roe even Yisrael. Whenever you see Yaakov and Yisrael, you know you're in parallelism. 25. Me'el avicha Yaazreka Ve'et Shaddai Yivarechecha, Birchot Shamayim Me'al Birchot Tahom, Rovetzet Tachat Birchot Shaddayim Veracham. 26. Birchot Avicha Gavru Al Birchot Chorai, Ad Ta'avat Givot Olam Tichiena L'rosh Yosef, L'kad kod Nazir Echav. More good, strange stuff to read.